A very good afternoon and welcome to K24's NewsCut. My name is Samuel Njoroge and our sign language interpreter for this bulletin will be Clement Muli. On to a top story, Deputy President William Ruto has announced that he will continue Kutangatanga, saying it is part of his work. Ruto on Friday said that as deputy to the president, he will continue to go around the country to ensure that all projects move according to schedule. Speaking in the Dandora grounds, Nairobi County on Friday, while inspecting construction works on the Eastern Transmission Pipeline, the Deputy President said efforts were being made to ensure equitable water supply to the city residents. Here is Angela Cheror with that report.
Friday mid-morning, and Deputy President William Ruto made his way to Dandora in Embakasi East constituency, Nairobi County, to oversee the construction works on the Eastern Transmission Kiambu-Embakasi pipeline. Ruto, who was accompanied by Embakasi North Member of Parliament James Gakuya, said the government is committed to addressing the problem of water shortage and a poor sewerage system in the city, saying he will be moving around to commission projects as that is his constitutional role.
Munajua Mheshimiwa Rais alisema mimi ndio nitakuwa nakaa hapa kichochoroni kuangalia barabara gani imetengenezwa, gani imetengenezwa. Si namna hiyo ndio nimefika hapa kwa hiyo kazi, na nimethibitisha ya kwamba barabara ya Osogo imejengwa.
Ruto said provision of water remains key to the promotion of sustainable social economic development and contributions to poverty reduction.
Hapa Dandora, especially Eastlands, kwa muda mrefu maji ni chache na maji ni sio mazuri, na ndio sababu tumeweka pesa sasa karibu bilioni 18 ya maji ya Nairobi pamoja na sewage system.
Meanwhile, ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi has bashed Jubilee's Kibra aspirant McDonald Mariga for taking elections for granted, accusing him of having never cared to vote in the past.
Hajapiga kura, hajatembea Kibira siku nyingine. Ndio hiyo tu anakuja na parachute na nyinyi mnamwangalia tu. Tarehe 7 mtamuonyesha kwamba Kibira si showground.
Tunasema IEBC isimame kidete, ihakikishe ya kwamba kura ya mtu haichezewi. Si namna hiyo? Na IEBC pia ihakikishe ya kwamba sisi tuko macho, tuko ngangari, mtu asicheze na list ya wapigaji kura.
Speaking during a meeting with residents of Kibra, the party headquarters, Musalia said President Uhuru Kenyatta endorsed Mariga's candidature half-heartedly as he was in a hurry to leave the country to attend the United Nations General Assembly in New York.
Niliangalia hiyo body language ya Uhuru, ingawa alikuwa anamsalamia, lakini niliona body language inaonyesha kwamba Uhuru anasema yeye anataka kwenda kufanya kazi ya nation huko New York, amalize kuja angalia mambo mengine. Kwa sababu huyu jamaa ni kama mtu yuko kwa ndege, kama ile siku mnaenda kwa show Jamhuri, unasukuma kutoka kwa ndege na parachute, lakini huyo amesukumwa na parachute imekataa kufunguka.
Angela Cheror, K24 NewsCut.
Now, the management of Del Monte Company has called for dialogue with residents of Murang'a to avert a looming crisis following a High Court decision that ruled in favor of the residents over ownership of a 22,000-acre piece of land where the fruit company is located. The company says over 7,000 of its employees risk losing their jobs should they fail to reach a consensus with the residents on how to salvage the situation. The National Lands Commission had earlier directed Del Monte to surrender all land not registered under its name to local residents.
For 50 years, Del Monte, Kenya has been dedicated to the economic development and prosperity of this region. The company, as the single largest economic driver in the region, proudly provides valuable employment to more than 6,500 Kenyans, and indirectly supports more than 28,000 other jobs. Named by Brand Africa in 2019 as Kenya's most admired food brand, our long-standing commitment to the country has provided housing, education, and medical care to tens of thousands of Kenyans, and together with them we produce and export more than 230,000 metric tons of pineapple products each year.
Del Monte is an investor who has come to invest, and we are Kenyans who are also gaining out of the investment. We are afraid that the frustrations now being meted out on Del Monte may discourage the investor, who can even pull out at any time. Where shall we be? Where shall we be? The 7,500 employees who are employed by Del Monte, where shall we be? And others who depend on Del Monte. That's our worry.
Now, the ongoing Nairobi cleanup exercise today finds itself in Ruai, right here in Nairobi. And we would like to just cross over to that venue and just get to listen in and look at how the exercise is being conducted this far.
Members of County Assembly, but I will not recognize them at this point because we have our host, who is the Deputy Speaker, who will recognize them present today. Your Excellency, before I hand over to the national government, NEMA has played a very key role in the conservation of our environment. We really want to appreciate NEMA because we have become partners in the process of restoring the image of Nairobi. And Your Excellency, we've been having a very good intergovernmental and multi-agency approach to our issues. And today, they have come in solidarity. We have a full house of the CEO of NEMA. We have the chairman of NEMA. We also have the board of directors. So, please join me in appreciating Mr. Mamo, the CEO of NEMA, to come and give his remarks and recognize the team from NEMA.
Thank you so much, Veska. Our chief guest, representative of the Cabinet Secretary, our Chief Administrative Secretary, Honorable Mohamed Elmi, our Governor, His Excellency Mike Sonko, the representative of the Principal Secretary, Mr. Joel Kitili, the Chairman, NEMA Board of Management, Mr. John Montella, our CC in charge of Environment, Madam Veska, Head of Government Agencies present, Chief Executives of Private Companies present. I think before I make my remarks, I want to recognize and appreciate the support of government agencies, national government agencies present. And I want to ask them to stand up. All heads of government institutions present, kindly stand up from national government. We have our friends from Kenya Pipeline Company. I think they are here within. Your Excellency and the Chief Guest, I am privileged and honored on behalf of NEMA to warmly welcome you all to this year's National Clean Up the World Celebrations 2019 here at Ruai, Kasarani Sub-County. NEMA, in collaboration with Nairobi County Government and other stakeholders, spearheaded preparations for this year's national event under the theme Combat Waste and Plastic Pollution. This is indeed a call to action for all of us to come together to combat one of the greatest environmental challenges of our time, which is waste and plastic pollution. Your Excellency, we have a lot of issues when it comes to plastic waste. As citizens of this country, our
Now, this is the 14th cleanup exercise, and it is expected that this initiative will be carried out across all the 85 wards in Nairobi County, and we expect the governor, that is Mike Mbuvi Sonko, to be addressing the gathering in Ruai. It will be the first in a long time because he has been, a bit missing in action, courtesy of what has been happening to him with the EACC. Let's move on to another story where the government has given all persons holding illegal guns until 30th September to surrender them to local authorities in anonymity and without reprisal. According to a survey by the African Union, there are about 600,000 firearms held by civilians illegally in Kenya, and this is in line with a decision by the African Union Heads of State Summit that endorsed the observance of September as the Africa Amnesty Month to disarm civilians with a view to maintain peace. Let's listen in to Mohammed Amin, the director of the Kenya Focal Point on Small Arms.
The government has put in place various intervention measures to collect from the members of the public the illegal firearms. And we have urged them to surrender all the illegally held firearms at their disposal. And basically that is the purpose of the amnesty, and they will be insulated against any arrest or prosecution. At the end of the amnesty period, we intend to take a full stock of what we have done as a government, and thereafter organize for a public destruction of all the firearms collected and surrendered as a result of the amnesty.
Now, the 12th Women's Affairs Ministers meeting held in Nairobi to provide an opportunity for ministers, civil society, private sector and partner agencies to explore and agree on workable strategies and solutions to tackle gender disparities has finally come to an end. Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland raised concern that gender discrimination and prejudice are still daily realities for women across the world. The conference was attended by Public Service Cabinet Secretary Margaret Kobia and her sports counterpart Amina Mohammed, together with Her Royal Highness Sophie, the Countess of Wessex.
We must empower women to take their proper place and to assist in really delivering the wealth that should be ours collectively if we used all of our human capital. And that human capital clearly includes a fundamental shift in the way in which women can participate.
We arrived here with some uncertainty, the pain of the devastation that our country has been seeing. But members of our delegation over the last several days have truly been lifted, profoundly lifted, as we listen to the discussions that were being held about women, the kind of things that we need to look at as far as lifting them up. And so we've benefited far more than we thought we would.
Now, youth under the Green Congress Party of Kenya are calling on the government to pay particular attention to issues around climate change and global warming. Speaking after a day-long meeting at the Africa Nazarene University, the youth said it was time the country, especially the leadership, took time and invested more resources in climate change as the trends were changing at an alarming rate. Currently, there are about 2.6 million people staring at starvation in the country, and the youth believe not much is being done to remedy the situation as should be. According to them, it has been several years since the weather patterns have been erratic, and that is a wake-up call to authorities to change strategy. They demanded that a climate emergency be declared now.
Decided we are going to have an emergency. We are calling on the government to take action on climate change.
We demand mainstreaming of youths on the war on climate change. And how? Number one, by getting more opportunities for youths in climate change programs. Two, increasing access to climate change funds for the youths.
And let's move on now and get an update in as far as the top Cohen's murder is concerned. And we're now joined by way of phone by our reporter Lennox Sengre. Lennox, good afternoon. Your assignment today was to revisit his Kitisuru home. What have you been able to find out so far?
Well, Sam, we are at the Kitisuru home to the late Tob Cohen. And from the information we've got, that we've seen 2 police officers heavily manning Tob's home. Until today, we've been seeing the 2 police officers camping here. From the information we are being told that they are reporting here, they are working in shift, rather reporting in the morning at around 7 a.m. to really relieve maybe those who shall have worked within the night to take over. From the information we are getting is that all the workers who used to work here have been sent away, and it's only the police officers who have taken over and manning these premises here at the Tobbs Cohen's home. And from also the information we are getting from Sarah Wairimu's lawyer, they are going to move to court come next week to challenge the will that was unveiled in Nairobi by top lawyers, that is Chege Kirundi, who unveiled the late Tobbs Cohen will. They are saying, Mugo is saying that he is going to move to court come next week to challenge that will, saying that it was shared by people who are somehow very close to the late. And they are saying that Sarah must be included in that will, that all the properties that they got with the late bears the name of also Sarah, who is a prime suspect in this murder. We don't have much for now, Sam, but the truth is that since morning we've seen 2 police officers manning the late Tobbs Cohen home. And from there, we also going to ask whether, we are also going to find out whether the lawyers from Tobbs Cohen now will also really go and defend this case before the High Court come next week. Sam.
All right, Lennox, and maybe just to throw a question or two to you, has there been presence of family members today around the estate?
Not really. Remember, Sam, since last week, this place remains a scene of crime. And from the information and what we can see from here is that only 2 people, and they are police officers in uniform. No any other person is allowed to get inside. Even from the interview we've had, we've just get this information from outside. No one is being even allowed to enter this gate. It is only the 2 police officers who are uniformed who are inside Tobbs Cohen's home. No one is allowed really to even gain an access to this home. Sam.
Thank you so much, Lennox Sengre, for that update. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has called on Asian businessmen to use Kenya as a gateway to the African market. The president, who is en route to the United Nations General Assembly in New York, made the plea when he delivered the keynote address at the Singapore Summit 2019 on Saturday morning. Here is Daniel Kariuki with more details.
President Uhuru Kenyatta arrived in Singapore on Thursday, where he toured various areas, among them the Singapore port. The president later held bilateral talks with his Singaporean counterpart before attending the Singapore Summit, which brings together business and thought leaders from Asia and around the world to discuss global trends in business, finance and geopolitics. Addressing delegates at the Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore, President Kenyatta said Kenya is a leader in pro-business reforms.
As we seek economic and social partnerships with ASEAN countries, I will propose the following building blocks for this partnership. Building and expansion of transport, communication, energy, housing, and ICT infrastructure. Secondly, to facilitate mergers on collaborative arrangements between Asian companies and African companies, and promote linkages between micro, small, and medium, small-size enterprises on both sides of the Indian Ocean. To promote trade and investment between Kenya and Asia across the full spectrum of the economy and across the entire length of the value chain. And lastly, to collaborate in cultural exchanges.
The president marketed Kenya as a leading country in sub-Saharan Africa in terms of ICT and technology penetration, financial technology, and inclusion, with mobile phone subscriptions currently standing at 95% of its population of more than 45 million people.
We need to make our two regions the hubs that connect our two countries, rather, the hubs that connect our two regions. And what we're looking in particular is to see how we're going to be able to expand that hub and spoke concept in Nairobi with direct links, for example, with Singapore Airlines, where we can have flights flying from Singapore to Nairobi and thereby connecting with the rest of the African continent.
President Kenyatta was accompanied by Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge, Housing Principal Secretary Charles Hinga, and the Director of Economic Affairs and Commercial Diplomacy Directorate at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador John Weru. Daniel Kariuki, K24 NewsCut.